basically what happens in it is like they get trapped in a musical, and so the songs are like, help, I'm stuck in a musical and can't get out of it, and it's funny.
Make it stop.
It's pretty great.
We should add that to
That's fun.
That's
our
probably
list. It should be film 101.
honestly, I think that one belongs at this point. What's that sound? What was that rattling noise?
I think it's when I adjust the microphone.
Well, maybe you should
Don't
adjust the
adjust
microphone.
yourself.
Yeah, but I already did.
Well, can you undo it?
No. Why would I undo it?
So you can undo the noise.
I couldn't tell if that was a real question or not. I see now it was most likely a joke.
What?
Carry on.
Haha.
Why do you think I would joke about something
Don't
so
take
serious
advantage
like that?
of me.
Humor isn't real.
Anyway, hey, welcome to the Movie Overload
Are we recording?
podcast.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, no, it's good because now we have extra
Content.
Substance.
Yeah, what's the audio word for footage?
Data. I don't know.
Handage.
We have
It's
extra.
all data.
We have extra audio.
In
Oh,
the
wait,
digital
wait.
world of the
Wait.
21st century. What?
Wait.
Didn't get to do my intro.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Here, go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to the Movie Overload podcast, where we will be covering 100 essential films from A Trip to the Moon to Parasite and everything in between, except for Woody Allen.
Fuck it. Fuck
Yeah,
that guy.
Fuck that guy.
No one wants him except for. No, I'm not gonna go it. We're not gonna go into it. We don't have to
Buzz.
talk about
Buzz
Woody
and
Allen.
Woody.
Oh yeah, Buzz.
Oh.
Buzz. Do you think Buzz Aldrin enjoys a Woody Allen film?
Probably. I think they're like obligated to like each other.
Hmm.
Just
Yeah.
everyone named Buzz
Well, wait.
and everyone named Woody.
What if there
Yeah.
was somebody named, wait, what would it be? Buzz, wait, so it's weird because, you know, the pairing obviously is Tom Hanks and Tim Allen, right? But Woody Allen is Woody and Allen. So do we need somebody who's like
Whoa.
Buzz and like
Hanks?
Buzz
Oh
Hanks?
my
Does Buzz Hanks
Probably-
exist?
He's probably out there.
He probably
Buzz
is.
So
Hanks, if you're
yes.
listening to this, come find us, please.
We'll get both.
Tweet us.
We'll get both Buzz Hanks and Woody Allen on the podcast, and we will squish them together until only Woody and Buzz, the characters from Toy Story, exist, and that's how we get rid of Woody Allen.
Yay!
Oh.
I love it.
The master plan.
Will that work?
To
Science.
delete Woody Allen.
Scientific.
Delete us.
So anyway,
Um,
you know it is great.
my boyfriend Woody. My boyfriend.
Hey.
My boyfriend Woody from Toy Story.
No.
Hecked up.
What?
Teen Beach Movie 2.
Right.
Oh, I haven't even seen that one.
I actually think I watched it and it erased from my memory. Like, I cannot remember anything from that movie.
I
That
can't
will be
remember
essential film
anything
number
from-
102.
It's essential because it's impossible to remember.
Exactly. You have to watch it. Yeah.
Trust you.
Well, I mean, I guess on the topic of things that are incredible.
The Incredibles.
Yeah. Yes.
Whoa.
And speaking of The
Elastigirl.
Incredibles, Elastigirl, and speaking of Elastigirl,
Oh, can we bring it?
Detective.
Around.
You know that bit in The Incredibles where she's like on that island and she's trying to like
She's like
find
sleuthy
stuff,
and
and she's all sleuthy.
spying.
And speaking of sleuthy things, James Bond. And speaking of James Bond, British movies. And speaking of British movies,
With some sleuthiness.
with some sleuthiness, Austin Powers. Wait,
Oh,
no, crap.
wait.
I think I did
You're
this wrong.
close.
Where are
You're
we going?
close. I don't know. A man? Is there a man there? First man?
It's debatable.
Second man?
There are two men, and maybe there's a third one.
But what about
But
the
we
third
don't.
man?
We don't know about the third man.
We don't know.
We're not even sure there was a third man.
We don't.
I mean, wasn't there?
No.
I guess we could talk about that.
There was.
That was a movie reference.
Was there? Oh. Okay, let's talk about it.
So it was a subtle reference to the film The Third Man.
Okay, So it's abstract time,
It's
I believe,
abstract
at this
time.
point.
That was good. I needed that. The cue.
Yeah.
The cue. Okay, ready? The Third Man is a 1949 British film noir directed by Carol Reed, who is a man, written by Graham Greene, and starring Joseph Cotton, Alida Valli, Orson Welles, and Trevor Howard, set in post-war Vienna. Wow, that kind of tied it into my plot summary. Oops.
Do it.
Okay, I'll just do the whole thing. You guys get a bonus
Do
combination.
it. Hey, we were gonna get there anyway.
Right.
Hooray.
Yay! Set in post-war Vienna, the film centers on American Holly Martins, who arrives in the city to accept a job with his friend Harry Lime, only to learn that Lime has died. Viewing his death as suspicious, Martins elects to stay in Vienna and investigate the matter. The atmospheric use of black and white expressionist cinematography with harsh lighting and distorted Dutch angle camera technique is a major feature of The Third Man. Combined with the iconic theme music, seedy locations, and acclaimed performances from the cast, the style evokes the atmosphere of an exhausted, cynical post-war Vienna at the start of the Cold War.
Hell yeah.
Yay.
Okay, my biggest question that I've derived from that is, do you think it was intentional to make the main character a male named Holly because the director's name is Carol, and so they both have to deal with the pain, apparently. The 1940s pain, I assume, that men with female names would experience.
Carol. Poor Carol. I don't know, because so Graham Greene was the writer, and Greene wrote a novella in preparation to write the screenplay. And in the novella, Holly's first name is Rollo. Rollo? It's Rolllo.
Yeah.
And then they changed it for the film.
So it probably was because Carol's like, no,
So,
somebody else needs
yeah.
to experience my pain.
I was like confused sometimes because like with all their accents, I was confused sometimes. Like I thought I heard Holly, and then sometimes I was like, oh, maybe it's like Harley.
It
But
says
then I was
Holly
like,
here.
No, it's Holly. Yeah, for sure.
Oh man, I love how many accents are in that film. Okay, that's the thing that really gets me about like a lot of the films we've covered so far
Yeah.
is like the use of like multiple different languages within one film is
it
something that we
totally-
don't see that much anymore.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
totally just is kind of the same thing as like with Casablanca or something where it's just it takes place in this sort of international like mixing place. So you just get a bunch of people from different places and it's great.
And you don't always need to know everything that they're saying. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Yeah, there's a
you
lot
don't
of-
need subtitles.
Like just like Austrian like officers and they just
Magic.
and citizens and they just talk and they just don't translate any of it
Mhm.
and that's okay, like you said.
There are French, Russian, Austrian, British, American, Romanian, all the peoples of white Europe.
Yeah,
But, still. It is interesting.
Pretty fun.
I had a great time. I really like the intro to the film. Like
It's
just
so
like
good.
the voiceover at the beginning as it's just cutting through and it's like explaining the setting of Vienna and everything. It's just literally that opened and I'm like, oh, okay. I think I'm going to like this. And it just entirely 100% captured my attention the entire rest of the way.
when you think you're gonna like a thing and then you do.
It's pretty crazy.
They initially, so they like released it all throughout Europe when they released the movie, and then they also released it in America, but they cut that whole voiceover at the beginning, and like 11 minutes
Sad.
of footage total was cut, and they replaced it with a shorter narration from the guy who played Holly, because they were like, no, Americans aren't gonna appreciate this seedy tones of whatever this is, and so they like, I think essentially dumbed it down
That's so
for
dumb.
America, but then they recovered it and restored it, and
That's-
now
yeah,
I think they said Criterion has both versions, so people can compare intros.
Nice. Yeah.
So that was interesting
I want to see
and offensive.
a more remastered, fixed up version than the one that I saw on the
Yeah.
streaming service I
It
used.
was not good.
No.
Yeah, they re-released like the fully restored version in 2015.
Okay. So we probably have the old version.
Is there
Yeah,
like a
it's
physical
recent.
Criterion release?
I'm not sure actually. I hope there is. I feel like I've vaguely remember there being something. We are in the midst of a
There is.
Criterion sale.
We
A
are-
sale?
So I might just like do that while we're talking because
It's out of print on the Criterion
it's an
website.
oop.
On the
Aw,
website, yeah.
Ding nabbit. What will I do then?
But they at least had a Blu-ray of it.
And it's out of print.
Yeah. Spine 64.
Ooh, that's nice. I just assumed it wasn't on there for some reason. Anyway, fine. Well, yeah.
Anyway.
The conclusion is that it's really good looking, but if you watch it and it's not the Criterion edition, it's gonna look a little like rough, I guess.
I agree.
Probably, yeah.
But
It is
also,
what it
please watch
is.
it before you listen to a plot summary of this because it is one of those kinds of movies that you would easily be spoiled on, and it's totally worth going in mostly blind. That's my
Yes.
thought.
Yeah.
It's another one of those that's like feels pretty plot heavy.
Yes, I was gonna say, and how much? Well, I don't want to completely spoil it. Maybe later
Yes.
I can spoil
We
it.
got it. We got
But
it.
like, yeah, cause I gotta talk about it soon though because I gotta tell you about the book.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just spoil it. But people who haven't seen it and have any desire to be wowed by honestly one of the best movies we've watched yet, then please
Turn it off
turn this off and
like a
come back
light
later.
switch. Just go.
It's
Wow.
just-
Yes.
It's very watchable. Like it's under 2 hours. It's fun. It's a good time. I feel like it's like some of the movies we've gone through are like good, but also like a little bit harder to get
Push through. Yeah.
This one's pretty easy.
Mhm.
If you're like just a fun little noir like story.
Honestly, I
It's
would have been
cool.
fine if it was like an hour longer. Even like
Yeah.
it's just everything about it worked. I was like, I just want more of this, please.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely feels like something that Edgar Wright really likes,
Mm.
something that Ryan Johnson really likes.
Yes,
it just
there are
has the
some
like.
definitely things that show up in Ryan Johnson's stuff that is here,
Mhm.
and I was like, oh, he watched this movie.
Yeah. But it also feels influenced by Citizen Kane in some of the shots.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And it's also another movie where I guess now we're going to get into the plot, but it's the second movie we've covered on this podcast where Orson Welles plays a character that is dead, yet we still see them.
This is true.
Orson Welles.
Yes.
Not to be creepy, but marry me,
Mm.
Orson Welles.
Me too.
Me too,
Yes.
actually.
Yes.
How about we'll be welcome to the Movie Overload podcast, Orson Welles' harem.
Put that on a t-shirt and I will wear it.
Sorry.
I can't even put my finger on it.
I know.
But I felt the same thing
It's
during
just
Citizen
A
Kane. I was
massive
like,
amount of charisma.
yes. And I'm like,
Oh.
you are, he's not even like physically attractive to me, but he's
No.
just like so
Mhm.
interesting. I aspire to be that
And his
interesting.
voice is so good.
Again,
Like his voice is everything
Yeah.
Kelsey Grammer wants his
Yeah.
voice to be.
he only really like has one scene where he's like actually like speaking.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
But
it's
he
so
just-
good.
It's everything.
And the scene
It
where
makes
he's
the
not
movie.
speaking is one of the most iconic scenes in film
It's true.
history. Like I instantly I was like, "Oh my gosh, I've seen that scene
Mhm.
so many times in my life." I never connected the dots that
Yeah.
it would be from here.
But like it did evoke like I'm sorry, you were about
no,
to say
you are
something.
good. Please keep going.
The only thing I was just gonna say is like once he came on and like started, talking and having that scene. It's finally started to snow.
No.
It almost was just like right out of like Citizen Kane again,
Yeah.
because it just was like, oh, that dialogue style return, just the way that he's like, obviously being charismatic and speaking over his dialogue partner and like in a natural way that's still easy to parse and like I don't know, it just felt like it's an Orson Welles scene
So good.
and I love it.
Delicious.
Thank
Mhm.
you, Hannah. please
For
say
some reason, when I watch old movies, because I keep making comments about this on the podcast, I'm like, oh, how would we make this today? Like
Mhm.
with our current abilities, or how would we cast it? And so, like, Orson Welles, for some reason, I just want to see Leonardo DiCaprio,
Oh yeah.
whatever. But I was like, no, Flip that. I don't want to see Leo DiCaprio touch Orson Welles' work. I want to see Orson Welles like play The Great Gatsby.
Oh man, that
Like,
would have been so good.
Oh my god.
Dang it.
Yeah, like it
Ow.
sucks that like for such a talented,
good.
cool person, like we really got relatively little work from him. I feel like.
I need to read
Is that
books
true?
about him.
Wait, no, that's probably not true.
Actually, he has
He's
a
made
few.
quite a few.
The acting at least. I
He
don't know.
has quite a few movies.
I
mean,
just said a thing that I had no basis.
He
for saying.
doesn't
Well,
have
I
like
think-
a Kurosawa level of movies.
Yeah, or
but
you
he-
hear about Humphrey Bogart way more than you'll ever hear about Orson Welles in
Yeah,
my world of
probably.
film, at least.
But you know, he's done what? The Magnificent Ambersons.
Yeah, never mind. He acted the shit out of things.
He
But
he
people
definitely
don't
appeared
talk
in a lot of
about
stuff.
He has
him.
185 credits.
Oh, wow.
On Letterboxd.
Oh, okay.
But
Wow.
I don't hear people talk about him.
But he also did like radio, and he did all these
Yeah.
other things, you know. And
That's true.
his version of the War of the Worlds is one of the most well-known, if not the most well-known, radio production of all time. Mostly
true.
because of, you know, people thinking that the world was over, or at least reported
Right.
it being
Right.
reported that people thought the world was over.
Which is great.
But yeah, like there's
Dark times.
there's a lot, I think, still that we have not even like scratched the surface of to explore within Orson Welles' work.
Yes.
Not to mention all the books and documentaries and such
Indeed.
to really dig in. But you know, can we just label him as Podcast Daddy at this point? Just like,
Yes.
just make it
I-
official.
Podcast
I
Daddy.
wrote down a few notes on this weird little piece of paper.
Pod Daddy.
One of them just says Orson Welles is God.
I
I was,
yeah,
I was also
Amen.
considering the term movie Jesus.
movie Jesus.
He
That works
is,
as well,
though.
actually. No, that's true though.
Orson is Lord.
Anyway,
Sister of the Pod is
it's-
passing by with much confusion.
Podcast
this
Daddy
sacrilege
slash
that's going
God
on?
slash
Capture that
Jesus.
visual.
Yep.
Do you guys want to hear about the book?
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Just kidding. No, I don't.
Fine, get out. Because we're going to talk about it anyway.
Yes, please.
So before writing the screenplay at all, Graham Greene worked out the atmosphere, characterization, and mood of the story by writing a novella. He wrote it as a source text for the screenplay and never intended for it to be read by the public, and they still published it later, though.
Huh.
So now I kind of want to
Yeah,
read
might
it.
as well.
Sounds like a bad novelette.
Yes. Fun stuff.
Isn't that a line from the movie? Did I get that right?
A bad novelette.
Probably, yeah.
I can't even remember.
Something like that.
The narrator in the novella is Major Calloway, which gives the book
Huh.
a different emphasis.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
A small portion of his narration does appear in the modified form at the film's beginning in Carol Reed's voiceover. I never knew the old Vienna, wow, is the quote. Other differences include their nationalities. Martin's and Lime's were both English in the book. Martin's given name is Rollo rather than Holly, and Popescu. Did I say that right?
I mean, I'm pretty sure you didn't, but I can't remember how
I
to say
didn't
it.
either. I
No.
cannot remember it. I can't keep
I
them all straight. That
can't correct you.
character was an American named Cooler. So
No thanks.
they made it a little bit more diverse, I guess.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Big fan.
Yes. And then this was the interesting thing about the book. There's a huge difference in the ending. Spoiler alert, the novella implies that Anna and Martins are about to begin a new life together in stark contrast to the unmistakable.
Can't believe I got a
How
fucking phone call.
dare you be so popular?
It says scam likely.
keeps happening.
Scam
Oh
likely
my
did that to me.
gosh.
It's so obnoxious
Shoot.
because like my iPad volume, when we start the podcast, I turn all the way to the bottom, but like the
That's so
ringer still is
weird.
on, and I can't figure out how to turn it off.
Like a light switch. Just go click.
But it was funny there, because for a while, like we would be at work, and you would just be like getting phone calls from like random family members. and
Totally
be
get
like,
that
why
vibe.
is this happening? They know I'm at work.
Why am I being called?
There we go.
Anyway,
All right.
where was I?
Sorry,
All good.
guys. Sorry, pod friends.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, pod daddy.
Anyway, Pod Daddy's disappointed.
Pod daddy's looking down from heaven, and he's mad at us.
Sorry.
Ah.
Carry on.
Okay. The novella implies Anna and Martins are about to begin a new life together in stark contrast to the unmistakable snub by Anna that closes the film.
I love that
was
bit.
fun.
It was good.
Oh,
In the book, Anna does walk away from Lime's grave, but the text says, I watched him striding off on his overgrown legs after the girl. He caught her up and they walked side by side. I don't think he said a word to her. It was like the end of a story, except that before they turned out of my sight, her hand was through his arm, which is how a story usually begins. He was a very bad shot and a very bad judge of character, but he had a way with westerns, a trick of tension, and with girls. I wouldn't know what. And that's how it ends.
Well, it's still written sort of charmingly, so I
It
can kind
is.
of forgive
want to
it.
read that novella. Although, yeah, okay, that was the thing. As the movie was drawing to a conclusion, my first thought was like, if only there, like, if Anna had more agency, I think I would really like
Yeah,
this movie.
she's
and
really
then she just snubs him,
close.
and then I'm
I
like,
know.
Yeah, and then there's that. So it's like,
Ho, ho, ho.
thanks.
yeah.
Well, it says during filming, the final scene was like the biggest dispute between Green and Reed. They just said Carol Reed like refused to end the film because he said it was an artificially happy note.
Nice.
And I guess it was a huge fight.
Which is very noiry of them.
Yes.
The
and
way
of
that they ended
course-
up doing it.
Right. And of course, they ended up with Reed's take, and then later Green agreed, saying that was the right way to go
Yeah.
as far as the movie.
Yeah, I think it fits just because, I mean, I think that's kind of a genre convention at this point.
It
just
is.
being like, making the choice to like do the right thing, even though it costs you this like weird old friendship and maybe any shot at
A
the
life.
girl who was in love with your dead friend. But yeah.
Yeah, like, it happens.
It's weird.
Dead friend.
There's stuff that seems to imply that maybe he's kind of interested in her. I didn't feel like she was ever even remotely interested in him.
I definitely got
Especially
the vibe
because she
from
was
him,
still
though.
like mourning Harry.
Yeah, it just felt kind of gross on Holly's part, really.
Yeah, agreed.
And like it wasn't a lot.
And
but,
she was,
it was
like,
just like a look or something. I don't know.
clearly sided with
Right.
Harry Lime.
Yeah, totally. So like it was very weird the whole time. And I'm glad that it worked out the way that it did.
Mhm.
Because otherwise it wouldn't have made sense. It would have felt very forced. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, Carol.
I think in a sense, it feels much more like creative and free than, for example, like the Maltese Falcon does. The Maltese Falcon does feel like, in comparison, like it's a bit more on rails, even though it's one of the earlier examples of like big budget film noir. It feels, I guess, in comparison, so conventionally Hollywood, or I guess what is now conventionally Hollywood.
Right.
That like when I think about the two, even though they have like very, very, very similar plot lines and a lot in common, there's like more of a spark with the Third Man, which is something that I
Yeah.
feel like I was sort of vaguely missing with the Maltese Falcon. Like I
I
really
agree,
liked
yeah.
it, but
Yeah, the Maltese Falcon, like both times that I've seen it, was like it's fine, it's fun, but like it didn't feel like special. Or, like it mostly stood out to me. This felt like it stood out a little bit more. Yeah, this
Mhm.
felt like it just felt more advanced, maybe even like slightly more modern.
yeah.
Like I don't know.
But that's the thing that's cool about film noir is that you can watch them like a billion times. They're so rewatchable, and the more you watch them, the more you like them.
Mhm.
Like any of the ones that Kurosawa has done that's like kind of neo-noir or somewhere in there. Those are the ones that like I find myself rewatching and having a much better time with every time.
Nice.
So like Stray Dog, so good.
So good.
So
So good. I got a you.
Very nice.
So anyway,
Copyright strike.
yeah, oops.
Just kidding. Just kidding. That's not how that works.
Anyway, there was also a guy named David O. Selznick.
yeah, that
Yeah.
guy, he's kind of actually basically he rules the podcast list at the movie list at
Yeah.
this point, because he did
This is true.
A Star Is Born, Gone with the Wind, King Kong.
Oh yeah, all of the things.
Hmm.
Well, he, according to himself, it says, his main contribution was providing his actors Cotton and Wells, and to have produced the U.S. version of the movie, less than co-writing the script with Reed and Green. But he did have some say, like I think he was kind of also involved in the big dispute over the ending, and he sided with Reed for
Nice.
everything.
Good
so
for him.
yeah,
Cool.
so he was also there. Good job,
Wow.
David.
Man, that guy has just done so much. I think he also did Rebecca. Isn't it the
Becca.
Hitchcock movie?
Mm-hmm.
The 40s.
Oh yeah, I have
Yeah.
not watched that one yet.
Mm-hmm. So man, he's just got like everything under his belt. I feel like doing a bio of Selznick is something that I should have done early on, just
That's
so we
true.
had the context for the later
It's
episodes.
not too late.
It's not too late. Maybe I'll do that if there's another movie on the list which has him in
There
it,
you go.
and there probably will be. I don't
Probably.
know.
I was going to say that would be
Right.
interesting to apply it to everything we've
Exactly.
watched with him.
We'll look at next week. What are we doing next week? I forgot.
I don't know. You're doing it.
Yeah.
Haha.
I forget. Carry on. I'm gonna look though. 'Cause
Okay.
I want to see. I can't believe I forgot. I'm gonna look at it and be like, oh yeah, duh. I've said that like 5 million times.
Carol Reed was also called Sir Carol Reed.
Oh,
Yeah.
he got a knighthood.
Yes, like if you Wikipedia him, the Wikipeds, it's Sir Carol Reed.
Is he
So that's fancy.
CBE, OBE? Do you know?
I don't know.
I don't actually know which one's better, right? But like
He was just a war person.
he's a war dude. Wow, good for him, I guess. Is that something we're supposed to celebrate?
I don't know. Sure.
All right, good for him.
He also got nominated for several Academy Awards, and he won Best Director for Oliver, which I have seen
Oh.
a couple of times.
Wow, I didn't. Yeah, no, me too.
Yeah, that wasn't until 1968, though.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so 20 years later.
Damn.
Yeah, and Odd Man Out. Anyway, he was a dude. His father was an actor producer, and his mother was the mistress. So he showed up on the scene, and I was like, I'm gonna make movies too.
Cool.
And there he was.
Nice.
Good for him. Looks
Yep.
like he did a lot.
He
in his
did.
career. A lot of good ones. I do recognize some of these. Odd Man Out.
Yeah, that's a popular one.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Oliver Flap.
Yeah, anyway,
heard
yeah,
that one.
Wikipedia just says Sir. It does not talk about him being knighted. Does not say.
Yeah, that's what I was
Maybe
looking for, but I
it's
actually didn't see anything.
self-appointed.
Huh.
He's
He's
like,
just like, you will call me sir, and they're like, why? And he's like, because I want to.
because I hate Carol.
Yes.
He's bitter about that name, I bet.
I'm sure they didn't
Anyway.
care about those.
Mr. Reed
things
was my father.
clearly
Called me Sir.
80 years ago,
Sir
70 years ago, as much as they would now.
Carol.
Sure.
It's like Carl, but Carol.
I
Carl.
guess.
Honestly, if I had a son, I would probably name them Carol or Holly. Honestly, I like
Sure.
them as male names. I just feel like in the 40s, they probably wouldn't have liked that. Because people were all like much more, I don't know, prone to feeling like they have to be like super hyper masculine, right?
I
Manly
guess.
as heck.
Is that a thing?
I don't know.
Or
Yes.
did more macho-y things start?
I mean, I don't
Like,
know.
I feel like that's always been
Oh,
a
no,
thing.
I
it's
think
definitely-
it's just a trend, you know? They've just kind of fallen out of fashion as boy names. So to do them now, because it's not common, that's why it would be weird.
I guess so.
That's fair.
I don't know.
Could be right. I don't know.
There's no real, like, universal laws of names.
There
It's all
aren't.
just society.
Exactly.
I'm gonna have a son, and I'm gonna name him Sally.
You can do whatever the heck you
Greta.
want. Like
Stephanie.
hearing my name as a girl's name like,
Sarah.
now. I'm
Yeah.
like, I never heard that before. But
It's
like hearing
cool.
it within the past few years, I'm like, that's awesome.
It kind of translates for
like it.
guys' names to be used on girls better.
It does. I feel like it's a lot
Because
easier.
society is rigged.
Yeah, I do think that I think it's a lot easier for girls' names to be like more interesting and cool
Mhm.
than guys' names most of the time.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I'll name my daughter
Hannah.
George and my son Stephanie.
beautiful. Please do.
Hey, that's,
I support
uh,
that.
That works.
Also, my name is Hannah, and it is boring.
No, it's not.
No.
I feel like we got some decent names.
You guys got some decent names. It's just that they all start with H's and it makes
Right.
it confusing. Even though I've known you guys for like the majority of my life.
I
Question
want
mark, at
to
this
be
point?
different.
Maybe.
How old are you?
None of these some of
Let's
us.
see. I'm 19. I've known you for like
Almost 9 years.
almost 9 years. So yeah,
So
pretty
close,
much
yeah.
half my life. Yeah.
That's so awesome.
hmm
Do you guys want to hear my rant about Orson Welles?
Yeah.
Please.
Because that's what I mostly took
Orson
notes
Welles
on.
rant part 2.
Yeah.
Go on.
Actual facts. So through like years and years and years after the movie came out, there was this huge speculation that Orson Welles, instead of Reed, was actually the director.
Huh.
Like people were
Ooh.
making theories about it. But I guess it was just a popular misconception because of the style of the movie
Mm-hmm.
and then similar themes with Citizen Kane.
Mhm.
But in the final analysis of Discovering Orson Welles, a book about Orson Welles that I really need to read now, he just talks about Orson Welles didn't direct anything in the picture. The basics of his shooting and editing style, the music and meaning are plainly absent, yet old myths die hard and some viewers persist in believing otherwise. And they're just go on to say that it was Carol's picture, but it was so heavily inspired and influenced by Styles and Citizen Kane.
Mm-hmm.
People are like, no, Orson Welles secretly directed it. And they're
Like-
like, no, he didn't.
If Orson Welles did it, like, I love this movie, but if Orson Welles did it, it would be 10 times better.
Exactly.
So,
You
like-
would know.
Yeah.
I think he just also hinted at interviews that said, like, Orson Welles would make comments about, like, the special contributions he had to the film. So people were like, what does that mean? Because he was always kind of vague
Right.
about it and wouldn't delve into it. But yeah,
Interesting.
well, I can just roll right into that too. The speech, basically his only scene.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that.
It's so good.
Let's talk about that for a minute.
Please.
What stood out to you guys?
The scenery.
Yes. Did any lines stick out to you?
I feel like yes, but I didn't take enough note.
I mean, there was the bit where he was talking about, like, he could just... the one with the dots.
Yeah.
Yes.
Basically, yeah.
That's what I was going to say
Mhm.
also.
I don't have the line, like, burned into my
Oh,
skull,
you're
but I
good.
vaguely remembered the dots line.
I loved the dots line and then how it ended, like those last few when they're like, he's walking away. I don't know. It's all so good. He's magical. But anyway, so in the scene where they're on the Ferris wheel, Lime compares the people below to dots and says it would be insignificant if one of them or a few of them stopped moving forever. Back on the ground, he says, you know what the fellow said in Italy for 30 years under the Borgias, I don't know.
Bourgeoisie. Bourgeois.
Bourgeois? Is
Yeah.
that what it is? Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. They had warfare, terror, murder, and bloodshed, but they produced Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, and the Renaissance. In Switzerland, they had brotherly love. They had 500 years of democracy and peace. And what did that produce? The cuckoo clock.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he added that.
Oh, really?
Orson Welles added that last line.
Damn.
And they're saying that he didn't take credit for it because it was inspired by a play or something. They're actually not quite sure what it was inspired from. But I guess they were filming and it just made sense that he needed to like keep going
Gotcha.
to finish out. I don't know if it was just movement or timing or what, but they're like, yeah, it's like he needed like one more line. So he added that in. And that's why he says, you know what the fellow said, blah, blah, blah. Like he's referencing something he had read. So in the published script, they added it as a footnote.
Nice.
That's so cool.
I
I love
know.
that line,
It's
though.
good. Yeah, I really liked a lot of his very like villainous lines like that. Both of those things that we're talking about there, because like I feel like I've kind of heard that kind of characterization in other villains, like in more modern stuff. I wouldn't be able to say where right now, but it feels familiar, but like in a good way. And it's cool just seeing that here and being like, you know, it's fun to have a character like that where it's like, oh, he's my older friend, he's a guy, but also, and you know, he's really charming and kind of cool, but also he's really soulless and bad.
Despero in the Psych series.
Oh, yeah. Carrie Elway's character.
Yeah, I know that's not nearly as good of an example, but it is what
That
came
works,
to
yeah.
mind.
It works.
Also, just the fact that he like whipped this line out and was like, "Oh, this will fit my character. I'm gonna start saying this in our shots." And they were like,
just
"Okay."
world, you know, what a guy.
Just well educated. He said, actually, I did make a note. Orson Welles later said the phrase was from or inspired by an old Hungarian play. He did not name it. So that was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
Yeah.
such a good line, too. I was like, oh,
Yeah, now that you've like
Perspective.
repeated it, I think it'll just kind of stick with me forever. It's
yeah.
really good.
It's so good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I wanted to write it
Oh,
down.
okay. Speaking of, now that we've talked about that, did they or did they not actually shoot that on a moving Ferris wheel car?
There was not
you
a
know?
note about that. I'm going to look it up right now, though.
I don't know what to think because it looked very convincing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I liked a lot of the scenery in this movie.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that just went through, and I'm like, I feel like I haven't really seen like locations like this in the movies we've watched. Like a lot of them are like, again, Maltese Falcon, very normal locations.
Very much
They're
sets.
in buildings
Yeah.
and sets, and this one's like, here's this like partially destroyed architecture,
I
and
think
here's like
it's-
some sewers, and here's this Ferris wheel. I'm
Yeah.
like, heck yeah.
Well, I think that's a lot of what I was saying about like this feeling like it has some character, and like
Yeah.
it feels like if it isn't, I would be so surprised.
Yeah.
It feels like it's shot on location.
Yeah, most
It's
of it.
not
It
all
was-
these sets.
Mostly shot on location. I just double checked the Ferris wheel.
Okay.
They did film it on the Ferris wheel. That's
Awesome.
the real one.
That's awesome.
I did mean to talk about that because they did almost everything on location.
Okay. That's what it feels like.
And things that weren't on location, they had like done a ton of photography throughout like all of Vienna to build different like
Okay.
backgrounds or things for
Nice.
sets that they needed. They
That works.
also had a double for Orson Welles' little snippets of scenes, or like when he's running away or something. I don't know. But as soon as he was on set when they actually needed him, he was like, I'm going to stay here in Vienna on set with you guys till you're done.
Nice.
And so he stayed throughout the rest of the process.
That's
Cool.
so cool.
Yeah, like it makes sense if some of like the indoor scenes are sets, but yeah, like all the outdoor stuff
Everything
feels
Vienna was
real.
real, I
like
think.
I would be shocked if this was a set.
Yeah.
It's good to know.
And
that
it's really
not.
interesting to see like what Vienna looked like at this time,
Yeah, true.
because
Mm-hmm.
this year I have watched Before Sunrise 4 times, which is set in Vienna, and it's shot on location in Vienna,
It's so pretty.
as they basically just explore the whole city. And so I have what Vienna looks like plastered into my brain from watching that movie so many times, and seeing what it looked like right after the war is
Yeah, true.
really interesting.
Yeah. And oh man, what kind of compact setup did they have? I don't know. Assuming there was a
Yeah.
lot to like fit it in that freaking Ferris wheel
Right.
car.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Good grief.
Well, cameras at this point were
Right.
so different.
could
I think they
film
did
in-
have small ones and then
Yeah.
some bigger.
No, that makes sense. I guess I
chunkier
didn't know
ones.
if there would be anything else involved, like audio stuff.
Were they still like hand cranking at this point? Well, no, because we
don't
talked
think
about
so.
with the Great Dictator, like was it with the Great
Oh.
Dictator? Which one was the one where they actually invented something that actually turns the handle?
I
remember.
don't think it's
We went
hand
through-
cranking anymore.
Yeah,
Okay.
I feel like we'd probably be
But
past
yeah, I
that.
can't remember which
But it
movie
still
that
has to
was.
crank, so
Right.
there's still something else cranking it, I guess. So.
Yeah, I don't know.
Interesting.
Anyway.
I don't know either how they did that. But it does say it was filmed on the Ferris wheel. So,
That's cool.
what did you
I'll
think
believe it.
of the music?
It was
'Cause
interesting.
It stood out to me
It
pretty
did-
quickly.
Yeah, like just with what's the instrument that they used the most?
Zither.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, no, like it stood out because I was just like, this is not the sound that I would have expected,
Yeah.
but it works.
Same.
It's really, really cool. It's probably the most unique score we've covered so far.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Like it was so different. So all the music was composed and performed on the zither by Anton Karas. Before the production came to Vienna, Karas was an unknown performer in local Heerigers. Don't know where what that is. That's fine. But Carol Reed had made up his mind already to avoid schmaltzy, heavily orchestrated waltzes. And he was in Vienna one night, and he was in this, like, I'm guessing at a restaurant or something in a wine garden. And there was just a zitherist, and it was Anton. And he was like, oh my gosh, you're so good. Wow.
Score my entire movie.
Please score my movie. That's exactly how it went down. So even one of the producers said, like, they met completely by coincidence. Reed went up to him and initiated everything. Reed brought Karas back to London with him, where the musician worked with Reed on the score for 6 weeks. Karas stayed at Reed's house during the entire time. And critics said, has there ever been a film where the music more perfectly suits the action than in Carol Reed's The Third Man? And just said it was so appropriate for post-World War II Vienna. Like it was historically, culturally accurate.
Nice.
That is rad.
Can you imagine?
A
Hey.
big fan.
Will you leave your wine garden and score my movie for 6 weeks? I'll let you live at my house. I don't know, sir. Let me think about that. Yes,
You
I
can sleep-
will.
You can sleep on my couch.
You can sleep on my couch, and you can bring your zither.
Please bring yours.
Zithers are weird. I looked it up. It's like a guitar body with a guitar neck slapped on the body, and like add 80 strings.
Oh, right.
It's like a German,
Interesting.
Greek guitar
It's
thing.
the thing you kind of see at the beginning, right? The opening credits.
Oh, yeah.
You
Oh
see-
yeah,
you
I
see
think
the
there is
strings
one at the
being, like,
beginning.
plucked.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Yeah,
I
that
forgot
was
about
really
That was
cool.
cool, yeah.
So yeah,
Some cool shots in this movie.
There really are, and so many of them
Such
are
cool
like just the like dramatic angled shots.
Yeah,
that I love.
right. They do
But
that.
then it's got some
Yeah.
of those
Yeah.
like very, very, very Orson Wellesian shots,
Wellesian.
like where he's sitting in the theater,
Mm.
and it's like, and he stands up to leave, but it's at this like dramatically low angle. Do you remember
Yeah.
that shot?
Yes.
Like that one stood out as like, okay, was that shot actually in Citizen Kane? It looks like one of those ones, because weren't you talking about in your report one of those ones where they like dug out of the floor to be able to fit the camera low enough?
They put the camera in the floor, yeah.
Right. That's what it like. That's kind of how
Yeah,
it felt.
that's true.
I don't know. Lots of things wrong of that. I
Did
guess.
they have stuff about the Dutch angles?
Oh,
I don't know if there's
actually
any more
not a
info
whole
about that. I
lot,
heard
which
you mention
was
it.
weird because they won the Academy Award for Best Cinematography.
Cool.
But then in like a lot of the research, they didn't talk about it a whole lot. But it stood out to me, yeah, just the weird angles of like, here's a conversation or a person standing, but we're gonna hold the camera like
Yeah.
half sideways.
And I tried to like kind of notice like halfway through if they were doing it during any specific kind of situation, and it seemed like maybe they were doing it in moments where there was maybe a little bit more stress or tension.
Yeah.
I don't know about the first part. I forget.
This thing just says the third man makes extensive use of Dutch angle shots to emphasize the main character's alienation in a foreign environment.
That works. Yeah.
Carol Reed said that William Wyler gave him a spirit level after seeing the film to sardonically encourage him to use more traditional shooting angles. So
Nice.
Weiler, he finds his way into so many reports.
There
at this
he
point.
is.
Yep.
And there was other stuff too, like the people walk in and out of just like pure darkness several times in this movie,
yeah.
and it's cool. And like I don't know how that works.
Well, it
but it's
also
just
has
like black, and they're just like
yeah, such a cooler effect because it's in black and white. I don't know, or I think so.
Yeah,
Like
no, I think
the
so
pitch
also.
blackness
I
he's
think it would
standing
work as
in.
well.
Yeah, in the doorway, like Lime is just chilling there, and I'm like, I don't know if it was in color.
Yeah,
It wouldn't be as cool because right now I'm just staring at a black abyss.
Yeah.
I don't know.
it's cool.
I don't know. This whole podcast has really kind of convinced me that I feel like in general there is some amount of freedom to using black and white cinematography that like allows you to do cooler things depending on what you're trying to do. That
Right.
like, I guess depending on the film, I kind of end up preferring it lately,
Yeah, no, it's cool.
which is
I like it.
interesting. But
I
Yeah.
dig it.
I mean, okay, so one of the shots that stands out to me is just when he's like in the car and they're driving past the funeral, and he just kind of like focuses like head track on Anna
Yeah,
as they're driving by,
right.
and that like, you see that shot twice, so like obviously it kind of is supposed to like stick in your head, but it just so dramatically reminds me of a shot from Mandy. Do you know
Oh
what I'm
yeah,
talking
yeah,
about?
yeah. Because they do the same thing with her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's like that.
She's like walking on the side of the road,
They
and
drive past. Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
And that's just
true.
like, if that's a subtle reference that Panos Cosmatos is doing in 2018,
She's on the same side of the road, but they're
Uh-huh.
like going in the opposite direction.
yeah,
They're like approaching her and passing her.
right. But it's still a very similar
She's
shot.
walking towards them. But yeah, no, you're totally right. It is basically the same.
I don't know.
It's true.
I'm curious about that now.
Maybe. I don't know. I still need to watch the like. I want to watch the behind the scenes stuff. They probably wouldn't say something
Oh.
that specific, but
Probably not. No.
All the women were like so, I don't know, beautiful and
Her hair was just effortless.
yes.
at
Oh,
all
thank
times.
you. I was just like, I can't even fathom that you're just looking like this right now.
Right.
Like, excuse
Like
you.
she takes off the cap and she just, and it's
Yep.
back into
Perfect.
the position perfectly, or she's like brushing it. It's just like,
I was like, okay, that's
just, like,
fine.
no frizz.
You and your 1940s magic
Blows
hair.
my mind.
Magic hair.
Yeah. Very
It's
lucky.
fine.
And also, man, Austrian accents are just so good. Ugh.
So pretty.
Mm-hmm.
I could not find any info on the budget for this movie, by the way. That was weird. Usually it's like right there and all the rest of the information, and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, like I honestly wouldn't even know enough to say if this would be like potentially a low budget or a high budget film. Like, I mean, I assume
I
having
don't either.
Selznick attached and like having Orson Welles in it, it would have to have some budget. But at the same time, shooting on location in the way that they did, you know, like
Yeah.
I feel like I could see them potentially doing it on the cheaper end.
I think so too. Like, it wasn't too elaborate, but I don't know. Maybe. Because if they were moving around a lot
Mm-hmm.
and the costumes were good and
Yeah.
Man,
some of the clothing.
the diversity in like the way that films are made at this point in history is already like so notable, because like when thinking back, like the last thing that we covered being It's a Wonderful Life,
Yes.
it's weird because these two films have nothing in common from a production standpoint. They don't look even slightly similar in the way that they're shot, and I don't know why. It just seemed like maybe, I guess that's just the perspective of watching movies in the 2020s. I guess it's like you have the perspective of the kind of films that you're used to being like, we have all these different techniques and things are done all these different ways now, and you know, back then old movie is just like a genre in your head.
Right.
And so it's been really
That's
fun
true.
going back and realizing like, wow, like pretty much from the get-go, films were so diverse and different and interesting and creative. It didn't need to be developed into that, you know, as an art form. Feels like it's just kind of always been that way, which is cool.
What is life?
Don't know.
I don't know
Ooh.
Life
I
is
I had a question.
Orson Welles.
either. Ask me.
I don't know if you've covered this, but I was just curious. This movie has a rating attached to it at the beginning.
Oh.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
It says it's like for adult audiences or
For
something.
by the British film censors.
Is
or
that what it
something like
is?
that?
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Because I noticed I forgot who it was from, because I noticed later, I was like, he's obviously like drinking in the one scene more, and I think there's like a mostly nude woman, and I'm like, what's happening here?
That
going
actually,
on?
the mostly nude woman and those things were actually part of the 11 minutes that were cut for like the U.S. release because it went against the code.
That makes sense. Okay,
But
that's what I
later
was
they
wondering.
added it back.
Okay, that makes sense.
So the
Cool.
British film censors were more lax.
Got it.
Yes, and I don't think ratings for movies were even around till
Right.
1960s.
Yeah, we were probably pretty slow on that. Yeah.
Yeah, especially
Okay.
because we had the code in place, so it's like everything was so
Right.
censored for everybody.
Yeah.
Man, I hated that.
Yeah, it was pretty
Interesting.
dumb.
Hays Code
Yeah,
ruins
because I
everything.
started wondering. I was like, wait, was this like an American movie? Like, guess not.
It was not.
not.
Cool.
But speaking of releases, people loved it,
Nice.
except for Austria. They were like,
What?
"This is dumb." It just said Austrian critics were like seriously underwhelmed, and it only ran in like Vienna and the rest of Austria for maybe a few weeks.
It's because they hate Americans who write about cowboys.
I was
That's
just
fair.
like, but it's like all placed in Vienna. I would think people would be like, "Oh, this is so cool." It's like all right here where I live. Nope.
No.
Nope.
Maybe they just have their own films.
It's not about me. It's
Yeah.
about these darn Americans.
Yeah.
So funny.
Assholes.
Yeah.
Assholes.
But the Grand Gala world premiere was held in East Sussex in September 1949. Other critics everywhere loved it. And then later, way later, because obviously it aged well, in 1999, the British Film Institute voted The Third Man the greatest British film of all time.
Whoa.
50 years later.
Dang.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and then they got nominations for Best Cinematography, which they won, and then Carol Reed got nominated for Best Director and Best Film Editing to Oswald Haffenrichter.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
This movie really does feel just like diverse in weird ways. It's being like, it's a movie that's set in Vienna, starring mostly Americans characters,
True.
kind of interacting with local characters of different nationalities, and it's the British best movie.
Yeah, it is weird that the
Wait,
best
what?
British movie of all time does not star a
It's
British
not
person.
notably
Yeah.
British in
It-
most ways.
Also-
There's like one British guy.
Yeah, and he reminds me of Ralph Fiennes. And I'm British. He's amazing.
It was
And then he
also
died.
the most popular film.
Just kidding.
At the
I'm
box
probably talking
office.
About somebody else.
Sorry,
I don't know nationalities.
you good. It was the most popular film at the British box office for all of 1949.
Dang.
So the British people loved it.
I'm
Oh yeah,
glad it worked out for them. Because
yeah.
we've covered a lot of movies that are really good by today's standards that just did not receive any kind of acclaim at the time. So
It's
I'm
so
happy that this
sad.
came out and people were like, yes, this is good.
Awesome.
Also, maybe it's just because Orson Welles is attached and apparently Orson Welles ages well. And
He
also
elevated it
So
for
well.
Sure.
had like there's just like a pattern of him releasing something and it actually getting the critical reception at the time for the most part that it has today, you
Yeah.
know?
What's
It's
up
true.
with that?
Hmm.
Man, like he really was a walking legend. Like everybody around him was like, you are God. And he was like,
Maybe.
will you help me make my new movie? And they're like, no.
No.
I don't want to see more.
Like, no, everything you do
Will
is
you help
perfect.
me
but
new
no,
movie?
I'm not gonna fund your movie. Gross.
I don't want to be a part of that.
Disgusting.
Son of a bitch.
Stupid.
They were too intimidated by his holiness.
I
his
guess so.
flawlessness.
Yeah. I would be intimidated.
Same. I
Mm-hmm.
would. I would also love to act with him in a scene because I just feel like you would get better by standing in his presence.
Honestly, probably. I'd be so scared. Ugh.
What is it
Orson
like?
Welles be my dad.
Seriously. That's yes.
Yes.
That's actually pretty much all the notes I had on that. Like there were no crazy stories. The biggest drama was the fight about the ending.
And I'm really glad it went the way it did.
Me too.
Because that saves the movie. Because by the end, I was starting to feel like, it's really good, but it's hollow in the sense that, like, yeah, the Anna has no agency. And then she just does.
And then there
She
it
just walks
was.
past him. It's the best
Like,
scene in that movie,
nope.
honestly. I love that bit. And he just stands there. He's just like, oh, all right.
Yeah, like he doesn't even really react. He's just like,
Yeah. Like, okay. I
movie.
I also do love kind of the dark, creepy vibes. I know that's just like film noir, but I just remember some of the shots being like, oh, that looks dark.
In the sewer.
Oh my gosh. Or when his like
freaking
fingers
cool.
come
That's what I
through
was
the
gonna
grates.
say.
Yeah.
That
That's a
looked
really
so cool.
Yeah, I really
That
like
that bit reminded me of Blade Runner. Actually, there's a lot of this movie where I feel like Blade Runner was. I would definitely say Blade Runner was inspired by The Third Man.
Oh yeah.
But that shot in particular with the fingers
yeah.
through the grate is like, was that shot? I mean, that shot was basically in there. It reminds me of the shot with Harrison Ford like trying to grab the ledge,
Oh yeah.
you know, and
yeah.
climb all the way up on top of the roof, and he's like, fingers are like broken, and he's like trying to, yeah.
Right.
It's
true.
totally that scene.
This is true.
Same energy. I love it. I'm so excited to cover that movie too. We have like a
Soon.
great line of noir films.
I love it. I'm so excited.
Ugh. The best. Basically anything noir ends up being like near the top of my
I can
ranking.
finally get Hannah to watch Blade Runner movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yay.
At long
I thought we were going to watch one of those a while ago, and then
We
you guys
talked
didn't.
about it forever.
So
We
here
did
I am.
At least one of them.
Mm-hmm.
But now you can watch the original for the podcast, so that's some extra motivation. And then you can watch the arguably superior sequel that happens to star Ryan Gosling.
Arguably was right.
Wait, are we doing the old one or the new one for the
We're doing the
pod?
original for the podcast.
But I want to talk about Ryan Gosling.
We could do both. You can always watch both, and then we can bring it up on the side because it's great.
Speaking of Ryan Gosling,
In case you didn't know, Blade Runner 2049 is fucking awesome.
That's true.
Orson Welles is giving Ryan Gosling a run for his money.
It's true.
That's true.
Still love Ryan Gosling. I am too loyal. But
Both of them fuck.
yes, Ryan Gosling fucks. Orson Welles fucks.
Beautiful. So when
I need
people
so
say
many
Wellesian,
t-shirts.
are they meaning like H.G. Wells or Orson Welles, or does it just depend on the context?
Don't No.
In
guess
this,
context.
they said Wellesian in
Also, the
reference
spelling.
to Orson Welles.
Is there an extra E in the name?
Welles.
I'm pretty sure H.G.
Wellesian.
Wells is just
Within it.
Wells.
Oh, okay.
And you've got Orson Welles.
Welles.
I'm pretty sure.
Welles.
Orson Welles.
Anyway.
Yes.
H.G. Wells was dead.
Yeah.
Dang.
Although he did apparently he saw Metropolis, right? Did we talk about that early on?
I think so,
He said
yeah.
Metropolis was silly.
Of course he did.
This is silly.
I
You
love it.
snob.
That's
H.G.
so
That was
Passive.
silly.
That's like, this is not like this sucks or this is dumb. It's like, this is
I
silly.
feel like that happens with like
children.
Sounds
a
silly.
lot of stuff that we cover that like it's it's pretty good, it's great, and then there's always somebody who's a snob about it, and they're like some contemporary of it who's just like
Mhm.
doing something similar maybe, and they're like, that's all right,
Like, I mean, it's fine. It's just, I wouldn't
But then Hitler loves it, so it's okay.
yeah.
I'm glad we finally got into an era of films that Hitler can't say, we can't ruin them by Hitler loving them. Because Hitler
Freaking
was
Hitler.
dead by now.
He's dead now.
Thank God.
So good. Well, I guess we have a few things left to say. Fuck you, Woody Allen.
Fuck you,
Fuck
Woody
you,
Allen.
Hitler.
I'm gonna look through my notes and see if
Hitler.
there's anything.
Yes. More things.
I really like that there's a character who's a fan of his books, which reminded me a lot of Knives Out because there's
Mhm.
basically the same thing. It's really funny. I don't know why that's just like very charming.
It's a
just like,
great-
"Oh, I really
it's a
like
great
this
bit."
book of yours." I'm like, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, no, we pretty much brought up everything that I
Feel
wrote
bad
down.
for that small child.
Yeah. Oh.
That scene.
And then he's chasing after him.
die.
And then he needs his ball.
It's crazy.
Small boy want ball.
Also, the writing is really fun sometimes, and there's some really good lines.
Mhm.
Goodness, that's awkward. was really funny.
Which bit was that again?
It's like at the beginning, he's like talking to some guy, the guy who gives him the lecture opportunity or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm here, but like my friend who I thought I was going to meet is apparently dead." And he's like, "Goodness, that's awkward." And he's like, "Is that what you say to people who've just lost someone?"
Oh, yeah.
"Goodness, that's awkward."
Yeah,
Or,
that was
like,
pretty great. Okay, the lecture scene was so funny,
Oh,
though.
that was weird.
Because he just, has no clue
Oh, he's so
about
lost.
anything.
And I was like, I was surprised at how like chill he was about it leading up to it. Like clearly
Yeah.
he was just using it to get a roof over his head.
Right.
But then like,
But he had, no anxiety.
even like the day before, the guy's like, "Hey, so you can be here at this time and give a talk about this, right?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, sure." And I'm like, "Really? You're not gonna worry about this or
Well,
prep?"
didn't he say we're talking about the faith dilemma or something like
don't
that?
remember.
And he's like, I don't even know what that is.
Oh yeah, no. Wait, no, that reminds me of a different line. What is it? Oh yeah, no. It's when the Russian cops or whatever are taking her away, and he's like, "I'm sorry, man. It's just protocol." And she's like, "I don't even know what protocol means." And he's like, "I don't either."
Well, I was going to say when they're searching her apartment and the police are going through her letters and she's like, "Those are private."
Yeah.
He's like, "It's all right. We're used to it. We're like doctors." And she just looks so pissed. I was like, did he just
should
say
be.
that to her? No.
Yeah. And then the only other one that I wrote down was from when he's talking with Calloway, and being he's like, "We'll get him, in the long run, we'll get him." He's like, "Yeah, but I won't have helped you." And he was just like, so what is it? "That'll be a fine boast to make." And he's just like, "Oh, good job." You can
Yeet.
catch the guy, and you can be like, "Well, I didn't help." Good on you.
Good on you.
Which just helps
Well done.
make the decision in the movie, I guess, to
Mhm.
because he's not going to do it at first. He's not going to
He
turn
keeps
in his
flipping
friend.
and flopping. Yeah.
Because he's like, I don't want to do it because then she'll hate me and I'll feel sad because I turned in my friend. And he's like, "Look what he did to these children.
Look what he did.
You bitch."
You
And he's
bitch.
like, "Fine."
You bitch.
So it ends up doing that thing. Anyway, that's it. That's all
I
I
would
got.
have liked a little bit more. Ow. That did not look
I wonder if I
fun.
just gave
Hunter
myself
just
a paper
flipped his
cut on my,
notes and it smacked him in the face.
Yeah.
Flew
I
through
just
the air
cut
and said,
myself.
"No, sir."
That was weird.
Anyway,
You
that's it.
flip
That's all I got.
off.
I would have liked a bit more gray
Yeah.
morally.
Yes.
That's the one thing for me. Is it's like,
Yeah, it's pretty
I never
straightforward.
felt like I could really be like, oh, I understand where Wells is coming from.
Right.
Like you kind
I
of you
guess-
get it in a villainous sense, but it's not like the
I guess, yeah. Like
what, you know.
the gray, in a way, came more in just his choice on like how to deal with it, I guess.
Yeah.
Like having the information and still kind of being like, no, I'm just going to walk away from this situation.
Right.
Because like this is a mess. I have personal attachments that I don't want to mess around with. I'm just going to get out. But then being more confronted with the reality, the black and white of it,
Mhm.
and being like, okay, yeah, no, you're right. I gotta do this.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You gotta do it. You
You're my
hate to
oldest
see it.
friend, but
Who-
also you suck.
But that also reinforces the fact that Wells didn't make it, because if
Yeah.
Wells did, it would be
Yes.
way more like
pretty
morally ambiguous.
Yes. I love that.
I really want to rewatch Citizen Kane already.
Let's rewatch
So
Citizen
good.
Kane. Also, I love that they opened the coffin. They're like,
Yeah.
then who is dead body?
The third
Dead
man,
body.
and it was that guy.
Yeah.
It was the dude.
It's so fun, like when he sees Harry in the street, like it kind of all like makes sense, like all of a sudden.
Mhm.
Like I just like was thinking about it and I was like, oh,
Oh,
I get it now.
the smile.
He's his own third man.
Yes, the smile Harry Lime
It's
gives.
true.
Oh,
He's like,
when the
"Oh,
light
hey,
comes
pal."
over his face and he like realizes who it is, and then there's just a little smile. I was like, what?
That's the most iconic shot in like
It's so good.
the history of cinema. Like when somebody mentions Orson Welles in a video essay, it's always that shot of
That
him.
one.
Yeah,
Oh, it's so good.
it's a classic.
So good. I'm not gonna sing again. Anyway,
You're welcome to.
I
Just-
digress.
you can close this out by just singing an entire song,
I just
whichever one
keep
comes to
singing so
mind.
good, and I keep singing Book of Mormon today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Turn it off like a light, so it's just go click. It's a cool little Mormon trick.
Oh.
Turn it off. That's talking about being gay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And other fleshly thoughts.
I think I totally did just like give myself a paper cut on my mouth.
Hunter.
Well done.
It's so funny.
That paper
I don't
really
know. I
did
tried
say
to like
no,
fling it
thank
away
you.
and it just went back up and like sliced like my lip. It's
Wow.
pretty great.
Well, good job.
The paper that fights back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just teach me to take notes on paper.
Seriously.
Do you have any further watching suggestions?
Me?
Yeah.
Me?
Noir films.
Just watch other noir movies.
I guess,
Noir
yeah.
movies.
They're
And now
not
I
hard
want to
to
watch
find.
Odd Man Out by Carol Reed.
Yeah.
He was so involved in this.
Mhm.
I thought that was pretty cool. Like other directors are kind of like, here we are. But someone else kind of has a lot of the artistic influence, I guess, or something.
Yeah.
But like this director was, he did the bulk of it.
Mhm.
I feel like, I don't know.
For someone
Yeah.
who didn't also write it. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
They put in a lot of extra work. To like
Yeah.
change the ending is like the best move. It's
Right.
what really makes the movie as good as it is.
Yeah, I think he
So.
had some good
Mhm.
influence. And obviously being inspired by Orson Welles' style
Yeah.
had a big effect on the movie, but
That must have been so cool. Like, you know, working with this actor, like having the person who like inspired your
yeah,
directorial style like in your movie.
it's like, oh, so much pressure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just kind of want to, because, you know, it's all snowy outside now, and I just want to curl up with a blanket and watch noir films.
Yeah. Oh, I kind of want to watch The Magnificent Ambersons. I don't really know what genre that is, but that's one of the Orson Welles' other like well-known movies.
Let's watch that.
It could be good. Now let's
And
just
then
do it.
Harry Potter 7 Part 2, because I got to watch that.
Yeah. Oh, Harry Potter 8.
Yeah, true. What am I saying?
I mean,
8.
it's technically part 2,
It
but like I
is.
think that is as a concept is stupid.
I have to differentiate for people, because I'm like, I don't know. If I just say 7, they're like, which one?
It's so
And
dumb.
I'm like,
They
the
should not have
first
split that
one.
up into 2 movies. It didn't need to be 2 movies.
It's so long.
Just
Actually,
make it one really long movie. Like
the
one
seventh-
3-hour movie.
Oh
or
my
something.
gosh.
Just
The
make
7th
it-
one actually has scenes that I enjoy.
Just
better
don't
than the
even
6th one.
make it, honestly. Sorry.
You're just bitter because you don't like the Harry Potter movies.
I love
No,
Harry
it's not that I
Potter.
don't like the Harry Potter movies. It's that I don't like the 7th book. Like,
Oh.
I have when I reread them for like the trillionth time, I was like, oh, I used to think of Harry Potter as like this perfect series, and then the Deathly Hallows just kind of reveals a lot of J.K. Rowling not planning things out,
That's true.
just pretty obviously. And I think the way that she kind of changes the lore in that book is honestly like, it's not so bad that like I'm protesting it existing, but it's not also that good. And it's just, it feels like kind of a lame note to end the series on when it's maybe, in my opinion, the worst book in the series.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
But also the Deathly Hallows scene in part 1.
The movie version of it is better in comparison to the movies of the rest of the series.
Hindsight.
In comparison to the book, in comparison to I don't think
Gotcha.
I'm making any sense.
Like
but
the movie is better than the book for the 7th one, but the books are better than the other movies for the rest of them. Is that what you're saying?
Kind of. I guess what I'm saying is the relation and quality between the 7th movies compared to the quality of the rest of the movies in the series,
Yeah.
it is better
Gotcha.
than the quality of the 7th book in comparison to the rest of the books.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I gotcha. That's fair.
Anyway, totally a useless point to make.
I know, but I'm excited.
But
I love Harry Potter.
It's a good time. Oh man, I miss that series. I wish I could like J.K. Rowling, but it's impossible.
I know. I just ignore all the present information because I still enjoy all
And
that
that's
they
okay.
are.
Turfiness.
That's okay.
Yeah. I just ignore
because
it so I
she's
can't ruin it.
psycho doesn't mean we can't enjoy her old work.
Like, if you just decided this now, it's irrelevant, and the series is still the series I grew up with, so shut your face.
Also, rip Johnny Depp's career.
Yep.
Rip.
Sad.
Big sad.
Yeah, well, I mean, based off of the way that court case went, it's still kind of ambiguous, but like, if we're being honest, they're probably just both abusive, and maybe both of their careers should be over anyway.
That's fair. Yeah, could be.
This is fair.
I haven't looked into the details of it. I need to do that.
People
So
are
it
siding
was-
with Johnny Depp.
Huh?
Though, like on social
Right,
media,
I
I'm
was
seeing
gonna
people
say-
defend Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, because of the stuff that came out with Amber Heard, it's definitely more definitive that at the very least Amber Heard was physically abusive. It's a little bit more ambiguous as to whether or not Johnny Depp was, but also when it comes down to it, he wasn't great in other ways that we do know about.
Right.
But either way, that
Right.
court case was a libel case. It wasn't a conviction of him doing said thing. It was just him not having grounds to stand on for suing for defamation, I guess, which was what was happening
I guess, yeah.
essentially. So it's still it's not like anything specifically was proven in a court of law. It just could be potentially useful for further cases. And this is very relevant for
Yes,
when this
definitely.
podcast
Very.
releases, because of course we record them same day.
On
It's a simulcast.
will this be like December 30th or something?
It is
Yeah.
December 30th. What are you saying?
Wow.
Look
Yeah,
at the
'cause
calendar.
we do
30th.
this podcast live.
Happy New
Oh my gosh.
Year, everyone!
I-
Pretty much.
That reminds me, I played this game that made me think of that joke that we made. It's on Steam, and I saw Dan reviewed it, and it's like his pinned review on his Steam page.
What up, Dan?
And it has a really like obnoxious title.
Uncle of the pod?
Dr. Lingiska. Is that what it is? No, that might be making something
What
up.
is happening?
Hold on. I want to figure this out. I want to say it because this isn't even going to be like worth it. But,
Yes,
like,
it is.
Ooh, that looks rad.
Wait, do you need to find it?
I'm pulling it up.
While
Okay.
you're finding it, I'll
found
just
it.
say you can. Oh,
It's
okay, fine.
It's called
Jeez.
Dr. Langiskov.
Yeah, that one.
The Tiger and the Terribly Cursed Emerald.
Mm-hmm.
And the joke of the game, it's like a really, really short game. But like the joke of it is that you're trying to play the game. That's like a heist game. But it has to be run live by like people behind the scenes, like making all of the events of the game and stuff work correctly so that the player has a fun experience.
Huh?
And I was like, oh, it's like how we joked about like how we have to perform the podcast live every time someone listens to it.
It's so exhausting.
But that's the premise, except as
Yeah.
a video game.
It is what
But
it
like
is.
the more episodes we release and the more listeners we have, it just
Right.
gets basically impossible at this
Indeed.
Yeah,
point.
especially because we're so famous.
Yeah.
We're like
Can't stop
millions of
people.
followers on
I'm
Instagram.
scared for when we get like, when we get
Yeah.
even bigger.
I know.
Yeah.
Almost
Mm.
about to pass 2 million on Instagram.
Oh man.
2 million
That's
followers.
crazy.
I know. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. You did just get followed by Selena Gomez, so
I
that's about
did,
to go up.
yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just give
Yikes.
And Johnny Depp. But
Wait a second.
Johnny Depp has entered your DMs.
he's all, what up? Can I please be on your podcast? I was like, I don't know. I'll see if I can fit you in. No promises, Johnny.
He's a really big Blade Runner fan, so I think
Yeah.
that's probably the episode he'd want to do.
Well, Ryan Gosling will for sure be on the Blade Runner episode with
Yeah,
us.
that's
Yeah.
true.
He's begging
Good
to
point.
get on
Honestly,
here.
we should just make that one the blowout. You know, like I also know
Yes.
Jon Favreau, and he's pretty into that movie too.
Totally.
So
yeah.
let's just
On
just
that
get everyone on.
Gonna
note,
make the best episode ever.
follow our Instagram at
Yeah.
Movie Overload Pod and on Twitter at Movie Overload _ because Twitter has stupid username rules, and Movie Overload.
.com.
.com.
Wait,
I was like,
Movie
is there
Overload
pod?
It is pod. Okay.
Yeah.
I doubted myself.
And then what is it? Patreon.com/Movie Overload. I think.
Yep.
all the things.
And then I have to cut to the boy that already used all of his lines. I think.
I could use the one that I
So-
put in my Letterboxd review.
Do
Oh
it.
I
crap!
haven't said that one yet.
Can I say it?
Give me the lead in. Somebody.
can
And
say-
as we say here at the end of every Movie Overload podcast,
We should have dug deeper than a grave.
well done,
I
Hunter.
don't know. That was kind of fun.
Well done.
Thank you.
I like Hunter's lines like I like my steak. Well done. Or non-existent.
raw, half formed.
All of the above.
It would
At
have
once.
worked better
Off
if
the
it was a
bone.
burger rather than a steak.
For
the half-formed
I
line.
say it's like I don't think I get to control how my steak is.
Stop
formed.
throwing things.
Stop making everything hard
God.
for me.
Sorry.
Okay.
Gosh, this is gonna be such a bitch to edit.
It's not as bad as last week.
It's true.
I wasn't bumping my microphone every 5 seconds.
I wasn't
dying on the
either.
floor.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was fun. I forgot about that. That was
Yeah,
a
it
good
It's very
time.
relaxing.
It was okay. It was all right. We did it.
See ya, people.
Bye.